Hello and welcome to the Cider Party channel. Now we've got a real coup. My name's Ian and I'm up in Telford at the Constitutional Party Conference, also run by the UK column, and I'm speaking to the famous Phil McConnell. Now Phil McConnell is in something called Abel Danger, and if you're on YouTube or if you can go on their website, which is abeldanger.net. Phil McConnell is a retired airline pilot and is part, with David Hawkins, part of what I would call the Truth Movement A team. They look at different scenarios, different things that have happened, and the best thing to do is I'll get Phil to explain, how did Abel Danger start?
On the 4th of December of 2006, I got a call from a fellow whistleblower from United Airlines who said that he didn't want to talk to me about 9/11 anymore because he was concerned with the illegal bankruptcy of United Airlines, including a paid-off judge whose name was Eugene Wiedorf, who was given $10 million to tube United Airlines. And I said, well then, I don't have any interest in United Airlines bankruptcy, and you don't have any interest in 9/11. Which is no problem because I'll press on in my direction. And he said, well, if you're going to press on, you might want to talk to David Hawkins. And I said, I've never heard of David Hawkins. He said, well, I'm going to give you his phone number. It's 604-542-09 blank blank. And that's in the Vancouver, British Columbia area. And David and I connected on the phone sometime in the afternoon or evening of Wednesday, the 6th of December. And we communicated so effectively that by 10 o'clock p.m. on the 10th of December, I'd sent the federal government of the United States through the offices of the FBI, the FAA, the Airline Pilots Association, and the safety office at my employer, Northwest Airlines. I sent them very simple information about the illegal modification of Boeing airliners.
And what does this modification do?
Well, look back 1 year ago to March 8th of 2014, and Malaysia 370 disappeared. And there's some people that are employed by Serco, or they're cooperating with Serco, that would include the air traffic control system in Malaysia, because there's a British man named Soames, and when he was at Ministry of Defence here in the UK.
For legal terms, I've got to say this is alleged.
Yes, and it's alleged by Phil McConnell, and he doesn't agree with me. We had some differences before we got on the camera, but I'm going to be true to my message, which is I am alleging that the United Kingdom Ministry of Defence had a relationship with Malaysian air traffic control system that dates to 1996. Strangely enough, when Malaysia 370 went down, the search was organized by the Australian search people, and strangely enough, Serco has a relationship with the Australian search. And in the United States, we used to have a humorous TV show and short movie comic cartoons before movies, and it was the Keystone Cops, and they were totally inept. Now, for those of you in the next 2 or 3 generations, if you don't want to go back to the 1930s with the Keystone Cops, just watch the Australian search people, including, and this is not alleged, his name really is Angus Houston, and his sidekick Warren Truss. They've started and ended probably 5 or 6 searches, and now they're going to go search Antarctica, which is totally superfluous because Malaysia 370 landed at Diego Garcia at 0651.
That's the island in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, it's a British territory that the United States uses as a rendition center. And it's sovereign British territory that's under lease to the United States of America, and I would describe it to laymen as a super secret military installation.
Yeah, out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the ocean.
Where nobody's watching.
Yeah. And what do you think happened to the plane? Do you think it just landed?
Yes, I'm sure it landed, and the parking brake was set remotely. The aircraft took off on the morning of, or just around midnight on the 8th of March. Well, midnight would have been the 7th of March, but it took off somewhere late 7th or early 8th of March, and it took off headed for Beijing. And on the aircraft, there was some interesting cargo, including a bunch of batteries that could become a problem if they started exuding certain type of chemicals. Also, there was some technology of a military nature, and they were guidance systems for some drone type.
So you're thinking that they didn't want them to get to China?
Somebody may not have wanted them to get to China, but what they really didn't want to get to China, whoever they is, there were 20 human passengers on the flight. They were all employees of Freescale Technologies. Freescale Technologies is in Austin, Texas. I don't remember the breakdown of 12 were Malaysian and 8 were Chinese, or the reverse, but go ahead.
Didn't they have a patent out on something, some sort of technology?
Yes, they did, and it was for aircraft stealth or cloaking. And do you know who owns the patent today? Rothschild. Because the ownership of that patent, it had been applied for, but it hadn't been matured. So the individuals who came up with the intellectual property had some form of a financial and legal relationship with the family Rothschild. Now, I don't know if many of you in the United Kingdom are familiar with the name Rothschild.
Yes, we know the Rothschilds.
Yeah, because over on our side of the water, we have a similar, our family, Rockefeller, and they like to own things and control things. And because the 20 owners of the technology, the patent, vanished, I almost said perished, but it hadn't been proven they're dead. But they're dead. But anyway, that's my allegation. And I'll get into how they perished. But to make this as simple and clear as possible, because it's very complex, the aircraft took off on schedule. It took off to the northwest from the Kuala Lumpur airport. It made a right-hand turn, 30 degrees past the line in the air, which would be an airway that leads to BITOD intersection. When it got on that azimuth that leads to BITOD, the aircraft, controlled by the autopilot, monitored by the crew, it intercepted the course and flew towards BTOT. BTOT intersection would be a lovely place to electronically commandeer an aircraft, because it's right where 3 different, I don't know how to do that with my hands, but 3 different sections of airspace come together.
You haven't got any bottles or bits of paper
No,
have you available?
I wish if I had a chalkboard, I'd use it, but Vietnam, Singapore, and Malaysia, their airspace joins right at BTOD, and so it's sort of sketchy as to who's controlling the aircraft. And at BTOD intersection, the aircraft, which was headed north for Beijing, reversed course, and it started a reversal to the left and round to the south. And at that point, what caused it to reverse was a remote capture by some party, good or bad. It's unclear. It hasn't been proven. I'd say it's my opinion, and my opinion must be fairly worthwhile, since Malaysia and Malaysian Airline Systems called me down to explain it to them face to face. But after the first capture, which I believe was bad, a benign force recaptured the aircraft through an electronic backdoor of the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot and took it out to Diego Garcia and landed it safely. And I'll stop there, and maybe you can direct another question.
I didn't realise I was going to get all this. It's amazing. You watch things on the television, and you've got the BBC News, and you know they're telling a story. You know you're not getting the whole truth. You know, I've known things that's happened in my life, and information that I've got, which I'd never put on camera, because I wouldn't be here tomorrow. And I got to tell you that later, when we have a chat. But then there was the aircraft that was shot up over Ukraine. Now, what happened to that?
Well, let me tell you what I told.
Was that MH17?
No,
17.
Yeah.
17, yeah.
But the reason you said 77 was subliminally you were thinking back to American 77, which did not hit the Pentagon. And my college classmate, Chick Burlingame, was flying 77. Something very interesting, and I'm glad you're recording this, because this needs to get out to the world. When I communicated, and I'll produce this via email after this interview, on the 29th and 30th of March both, I published on the internet a warning to, not a threat, but a warning to Malaysia. I said, I'm coming there to talk to you and talk to Malaysian Airline System, and when I come, I'm going to talk about 2 features of the Boeing, and actually it's also Airbus, Bombardier, Embraer, and Sukhoi aircraft. they have modifications which are illegal. They're good modifications that are to enhance safety. What makes them illegal is the pilots of all the world's airliners don't know that the features are there. And after 9/11, when human hijackers became almost impossible because of the door being armored and locked, well, now you got this technology, which I personally have patents going back to 1953. I've got 66 pages of patents for something that has come and evolved into the Boeing Honeywell uninterruptible autopilot. And that's one of the two weapons that was used on Malaysia 370, and I'm going to 17, but I got to give you the background. The other is called ATI, which is air tranquilizing injector. And that's there because if aircraft needs to be captured electronically for the safety of the ship, captain, and crew, somebody's going to get nervous. The crew's going to get nervous for sure because they don't know about the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot. If they convey that to the flight attendants are going to get
So all the
nervous.
stuff that you watch
Yep.
on movies and things,
Yep.
you know, with James Bond and all the hi-fi, sci-fi stuff that, you know, they can just put everybody to sleep. This is actually on the planes now.
I got the patent, and it's called ATI. And I would invite all your listeners, if they want to learn this at their own schedule, all they have to do is Google these four terms. If you Google BUAP, Boeing Uninterruptible Autopilot, plus ATI, Air Tranquilizer Injector, plus MH370, that's the first airplane they took, plus my name, and I'm going to give you my name, but this is not about me, it's about world safety, and it could be world peace, but an elimination of murder for hire and elimination of profit by reinsurance. If you Google those four terms, you'll find a wealth of information that's been published. And when I accepted a call to come to Kuala Lumpur and talk to elements of the government and the leadership of Malaysia Airlines System, MAS, I told them between the time I accepted the invitation, and I did it in writing, thank goodness, because it's out there, I told them that if they don't take my information and expose it, that they should expect, and I'm going to say this real slowly, that they should expect to have a second explosive event no later than 1900 hours on the 17th of July. The second explosive event was Malaysia 17, and it was taken down at 17:35 on the 17th of July. And there's people around the world who think that guy's either prescient or he's really hooked up with some power people, and they're both wrong. And I'm not going to say how I picked that date, but I will tell you, I'm not prescient, and I don't have any relationship with any official agencies.
Right, part two. This is Ian from the Cider Party channel, and I've got Field McConnell with me. So if you hadn't watched the first video, I advise you to do that. But Field is from Abel Danger, and we're now going into the second part. We explained about the Malaysian air crash, and Flight 17. And now we're going to go on to all sorts of things. We've had a little chat about what we want to talk about. And, well, I just don't know where to start. I think I'm just going to hand over to Field.
Well, when I had gone to Malaysia I arrived on the 17th of April of 2014, and I stayed until the 20th of April of 2014. Prior to traveling, I had told them that if they don't expose the BUAP and ATI, and I just recommend once again that your listeners Google BUAP plus ATI plus Malaysia 370 plus my name, FIELD MCCONNELL. And this is not ego, and it's not about me. It's about murder of innocent people using airplanes and the revenue generation through reinsurance products. Anyway, long story short, I told them that if they don't expose these two technologies, they should expect to lose an airplane by 7 p.m. on the 17th of July of 2014. And they did. At 5:35 p.m., MH17 went down to the Ukraine. So since that time, I've been very busy. I had to give up my saxophone lessons because just like this interview that you set up sometime today, and here I am. I've got some other people waiting to do some projects, which reminds me it's 10 to...
So you haven't brought your saxophone?
I...
That's the only reason I came, was so that you could play your saxophone and show the world.
Well, you're going to get your wish, because I'm going to do an interview with Mark Salon in a car, and it won't be too TV-like, and it won't violate ADVOD, I hope. But by the time ADVOD comes back to work on Monday, I'll be back in the States. So see you later, ADVOD. But we're going to do, I'm going to have my saxophone in the car, and I won't explain why the saxophone's, I'm mentally preparing the skit. I will not explain why the saxophone's in the car with me, but I'll say it's, you can't carry, well, you're a gunsmith. I have a gun license. I can't bring my gun to England, can I? No, so, but I might.
Only if you get a visitor's permit.
Okay, but see, I still need to protect myself, and that's my God-given right. And England, UK, Great Britain can't take that away from me. So there may be a way to use a tenor saxophone as a, but I'll talk about that later. But I've got another couple of interviews set up, and we're going to be producing, well, counting this, we're probably going to be up over 38 hours of video during this weekend, most of it with other people, some of it with me. But the unit that I work with, AbelDanger.net, started out with a very small amount of people, and it's blossomed into a network now that's so much bigger. In all humility, I've probably had 10 or 12 people come up to me in the last 14 hours and introduce themselves in a very warm and welcoming way. And they said, I'd sure like to talk to you because I've been watching Abel Danger for 3 years. And when we started this, we didn't think there's any chance at all that 2 individuals or 4 individuals could ever impact the world through educating people, which is what we would like to do.
When I first started watching it, I thought, oh no, another conspiracy theory channel. Here we go. Well, I was, you know what it is, just tune on YouTube, find something to watch, and I started listening to you and David. And you two guys seem to know what you're talking about.
Well, let me give the credit, first of all, to God, because He created David and He created me. But He created David with a different skill set than the skill set He created me with. But to make this as simple as possible so as many people as possible can understand, when a car is made, whether it's a, I can't pronounce Jaguar, right? We say Jaguar in the States. But when they're building a Jaguar, they put different options on the car depending on how it's ordered. Well, the same is true with humans. And when David was created, he was ordered with a super brain. And he's got it. He uses it for our global warfare. And when I was created through the true history of my father, who should have died in a plane crash on 18 April of 1944. And then I was led, and that's key word, now I won't go any further, but I was led, LED, across a very unlikely path that began with growing up in a military family. My father was a SAC pilot for 30 years. SAC means Strategic Air Command Bombers. My mother stayed at home and raised my sister and myself. And my sister is worthy of about 27 hours of tape.
Can we go into your sister in a minute?
Okay, good. You want me to keep...
keep talking. We were on about Abel Danger and how you started and everything.
Okay, David and I first met on the phone on the 6th of December of 2006. We generated a relationship where we trusted each other's judgment and information and knowledge set. And by the 10th of December of 2006, I indicated to the federal government that I could not fly Boeing 747-400 aircraft because they had an illegal feature. From the time I first made that assertion that the aircraft were illegally modified to the time that my employer had been contacted by the United States Department of Justice Department. I made the statement on the 10th of December. By the 18th of January, the United States Department of Justice was putting pressure on Northwest Airlines to get me to shut up. And I sort of, it's called jab and parry in boxing, where you do this, 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 and then you do that. And so I went back and forth with Northwest Airlines, not to be humorous, but they just didn't have a legitimate claim. And we escalated through 4 letters, and then on the 4th letter, they told me that I had failed to go to a psychiatric interview with the doctor on the 1st and 2nd of March of 2007. The truth is they had never told me to go to the psychiatric thing. So they have a huge settlement. They're gonna be seeing me in court again. And Judge Rosemary M. Collier, who dismissed my case, civil case 1:08-1600 (RMC), she'll have a chance at it, very brief chance, and then it'll be going to a prestigious law firm. But I'm not litigious. I don't like the legal system. I don't like the bank. Here comes a good statement. While I've been in England, and I just got here yesterday morning at 7:45 a.m. at Heathrow, I found out that there is a rift or a wedge recently developed between the global bankers, and the legal people. In other words, whatever you call your legal department here in England, we call it Department of Justice, but where we live, the bankers have been controlling justice for a long time. Well, now, because of the egregious misconduct of HSBC and Serco, there's a rift, and we can take advantage of that rift, because now Abel Danger can go after one side or the other, and they're fighting each other right now.
Well, the problem is, although we know when you go through life, there's criminals in every group.
Yes.
People that just nick things, and what we're talking about is white-collar crime. They got a suit and tie and look reasonable.
Yeah.
But we know they're scamming everybody.
Yes, and I see you're wearing a tie right now, and you see I'm not wearing a tie. You know, the history of ties goes back to India, and I can't tell you what the people were, but I can do it on my next radio show at abeldanger.net. But the tie initially was a symbol of control. If somebody's wearing a tie, they're under control.
That's right, necktie.
That's why you'll seldom see me wearing a tie.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to look reasonable for my interviews, and being on camera, I wanted to look smart.
Well, you got the camera pointed the wrong direction. So, anyway, where were we? And oh yes, the wedge between the bankers and the legal systems. I don't think it's like Humpty Dumpty when he fell off the wall. All the Queen's horses and all the Queen's men couldn't put the bankers and the legal system back together again. This may well be, not this interview, but this weekend may be critical in the capsize of the cabal's canoe, because they're listing very heavily, and a lot of the people in the canoe of the cabal are getting really nervous because they know that they've got leakers in their own camp, and they know that 8 members of certain agencies that typically have 3 letters or numbers, MI6, CIA, NSA.
Well, there was reports of bankers allegedly taking flying lessons from the JP Morgan and other banks around the world.
Did they have airplanes, or did they just jump out of windows?
Allegedly they're supposed to have jumped. It's supposed to be voluntary. But that's why I say, were they given flying lessons?
I think
my alleges that they were given flying lessons.
Yeah.
Right? So a second hand or third hand were involved in them.
Can I correct you?
Yeah.
I'd say it's a black hand. Are you familiar with what a black hand is?
Yeah.
Okay. That's something.
But can you explain on video for people that don't know?
Yeah, the Black Hand, I think, is originally an Italian organization, but it is a criminal organization, and I would say evil, that produces acts of terror around the world. And if they want to take someone out, they're very good at doing it, and they leave a signature. They don't intentionally leave a signature, but are you familiar with RAF Northolt?
Yep.
RAF Northolt has a very long history of doing some very interesting things. And I'm not familiar with your kings, and I don't want to be rude to the English people, but I think you had a king named Edward VIII. And he started the King's Flight at Northolt in 1929. The King's Flight is now called the Queen's Flight. Yep. And I've produced 2 pictures of the Queen's airplane flying into an HSB. I didn't create the pictures, I found them. But the Queen has a BAE 146. I've got a wonderful image of BAE 146 flying into a tall building that says HSBC. I'd say the HSBC is going to be coming down, but part of the reason it is, they're under attack globally. And my own sister and her name is Christine Marcy, K-R-I-S-T-I.
And this is your real sister?
Yes, yeah.
It's not a fictional character, it's your real sister.
No, but that's interesting you should say that, because the only reason I'm here doing this interview is when we try to get information in, we don't try to inform the public. We don't think the media will ever touch us. We don't care, because we're better than they are, frankly. But what we try to do is we try to send a very direct message, and I'm going to do something here very directly. Watch. Christine Marcy and Barack Obama, we're coming for you. Pretty clear, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. My sister.
Well, I got to put allegedly in there to cover me from my legal side over here in England, you see.
Well, I'm allegedly coming for you, and see, my sister, her real name is Christine Marcy. Her maiden name was Christine McConnell. She is attached at the hip to all the evil parties in the United States of America, including net-centric pedophilia, including the Department of Justice, who took a $1.9 billion bribe from HSBC, and she and Eric Holder, who is the Attorney General, have been taking these bribes since 1984, and the official mechanism through which they take the bribes is the United States Department of Justice Asset Forfeiture Fund. Eric Holder and my sister, Christine Marcy, really need to be investigated. Now, does that sound like I hate my sister or wish her ill? I don't know if she's good or bad, but if she's good, she's being manipulated and she needs a way out, and here it is. Come on out of the darkness. And if she's bad, she needs to take a walk up a gallows.
Well, when you go through life, you always try and be the good guy. You want to do the best you can. And we've got this theory that there's black hats and white hats.
Yes.
There's good, there's evil.
Yes.
The trick that I find is knowing which ones are the good guys and which ones are the bad guys when you can't make them out. And I think you're one of the good guys.
Well, I think a majority of people are good guys. I think, I'm pulling this right out of thin air. Let's say 97% of the people are good guys. Of that 97% of the people that are good guys, 92% of that group is scared to do the truth and stand up for things. Stand up for people like Holly Grigg. I hate what happened to Holly Grigg, and I do have a personal relationship with her. I've met her at a UK column event. But all these little children around the world that are being abused on purpose, and I don't want to be impolite or make an allegation that I can't prove, but for whatever reason, the Scottish and UK governments, I think they're controlled by a large degree by pedophilia, and the way it works is, let's say that you're a PM or MP, or what is it? MP. Yeah.
Member of Parliament.
Yes, let's say you're one of those, and you're a good guy.
Yeah.
If they want you to work for them, they might say, Ian, would you come to a cocktail party this afternoon at 6:30? And you'd say, sure, because now you're
and
one of
there'll
them.
be a nice little dolly bird there. Yeah.
And then they might say, you know, at the party, on the light, non-official, they might say, we have a special project that's very sensitive, and we'd like your support. Would you be willing to support the export of children through CARE, where we're going to distribute them around the world? And it would be very profitable for us as a nation, as an organization, and for you personally. Would you be willing to participate in the export of children from the United Kingdom?
Well, my answer would be no.
Of course it would.
I would walk out of the room.
Of course it would. But you're still an MP, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the problem. They don't step out of their office, so they stay in the office. A month later, they say, Ian, we really respect you for doing the right thing and not getting in on Project or Operation Bohan. But now we have another Operation Velvet Ears, and we wonder, would you be comfortable working with us as we take children who are working for us, and we let those children
Apologies for the break in the video. The battery stopped. Field's been going on for so long. The battery on the camera went, so we've just changed the battery over. And this is part 3, take 2. And Field, you were talking about the different shootings in America, and you were listing them. Can we start off from there?
We sure can, but first of all, none of those things happened. They were all hoaxes, and they were set up to scare Americans and to provide. The idea was if they can scare enough Americans that crazy lone gunmen can come into a theater in Colorado, or to a Sikh temple in Cudahy, Wisconsin, or to a school in Sandy Hook, Connecticut, or to the Boston Marathon, or to Atlanta, Georgia on the 4th of July, which never happened because somebody stopped it. But the idea was people like Mayor Bloomberg of New York and other people that are not loyal to America, they want to contradict our Constitution, and they want to take away our rights to bear arms. Our rights to bear arms are guaranteed by the Constitution, but they're, previous to that, they're guaranteed by God. We're supposed to protect our families. And
ourselves.
Yes, and most Americans are very capable, and the vast majority of Americans are aware of it, and a good majority of Americans have weapons with which to protect themselves. And I have a bunch of them. Do I think I'll ever use them? No, haven't used them yet. Why would I use them in the future? I think the truth is the best thing. But let's take those hoaxes. 20th of July of 2012 in Aurora, Colorado, at a theater. Supposedly, a lone gunman, or I think the reports were there were 3 lone gunmen. But anyway, they put it on a guy named Holmes, and they said he was crazy and that he shot up a bunch of people in the theater. And I believe in that case, there were some people that were injured. But they couldn't let the truth get out, because the truth was that this had been a hoax put on by Crisis Actors, which is a company, Vision Box, John Simmons, he runs Crisis Actors, and we're going to hear the name John Simmons again a little bit, but these people that put on these hoaxes, they start as, some of them start as exercises or drills, some of them just start as opportunities to scare more Americans. And the idea is if they can get all the Americans to be afraid of lone gunmen, then we will ask the government to protect us by taking away our rights and giving them more weapons and taking away our weapons. And they're not going to win. The United States military, and if you count the whole military, are around 1 million people. The state I live in, Wisconsin, we have 850,000 plus people with rifles and shotguns and handguns, and we're fairly good at going through the woods and shooting things. I'm not trying to be dramatic. It's my opinion that the entire U.S. military, if they were relying on rifles and handguns and shotguns, I don't think the U.S. military could take Wisconsin. There's a lot of people, the majority of the people in America actually like life in America, and we'd like to be a beacon of hope to the rest of the world that if you come to America, you'll be safe and you'll be free. Go ahead.
The thing is, what you've got to remember is your right to bear arms comes from our Bill of Rights.
Okay. Well, that brings up the question, why can't you bear arms here anymore?
Well, they've sort of stopped us doing that.
In '69 and then again in the '90s, I think.
But the thing is, the law is still there.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't talk about it. The law is used so that our police can be armed.
Yeah.
Our law is so that we've got arms for sportsmanship, for clay shooting, for game shooting, or for target shooting. So we've got to have a license. And then they ended up taking our pistols off of us after Dunblane. And there's lots of stories about that, but I don't know what really happened. And then now you've had Sandy Hook as well.
Yes, but between Aurora, Colorado and the 20th of July of 2012, the next one was in Cudahy, Wisconsin, where supposedly a lone gunman walked into a Sikh temple and started shooting people up. And Abel Danger got involved in that, and we named names, and I'm going to name one right now, Teresa Carlson. That woman, she's an FBI agent in charge of the Milwaukee office, and she was on the phone that very day, and once again, I should have looked it up when we took a break, but I think the date was in the fall of 2012, and I'm guessing November. But as she was sitting there as the FBI agent in charge of Milwaukee, she was talking to a male FBI agent in New York who was at a Sikh temple. I just find the fact that 2 FBI people in 2 Sikh temples in 2 different states, 800 miles apart, I find it strange. But anyway, I expressed that through Abel Danger. We published that we didn't think that the Cudahy thing was as it appeared, and we suggested that this Teresa Carlson, the FBI agent in charge of the Milwaukee office, we suggested that she had rather a colorful past, and I'll leave it at that. But strangely, not too long after Cudahy, and maybe influenced by Abel Danger bringing up her past, she was removed. And so people say, what do you think that you and David or you and your 10,000 agents can do? Well, one thing we can do, and we're fairly good at it and consistent, is we can impose terror to the people trying to impose terror on us. We scare them, and they do not scare us. And I don't want to sound heroic. The reason they don't scare me, I'm 65. I've had a great life. I have 5 kids, 3 grandkids, and it's my obligation to protect my kids and grandkids. And if my go ahead.
Do you enjoy doing this?
No, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Really?
Mentally, yeah.
You seem to know everything, got everything.
Well, don't give me any credit. I've been taught by a master, David Hawkins, and he understands this, and he can water it down to my level where I can understand it. And then I try to, if I water it down, I'm willing to, I don't normally do that, but I just say what I understand, and it's my obligation to do it because there's a lot of innocent people being hurt all around the world with technologies and let's see, what would the right word be? They're using the same techniques over and over and signatures, and we see the signature, what they're doing. Let me just give you a really good example, and then I'll be quiet.
They call it the MO, don't they?
Operation. Yeah, modus operandi. Yeah. I'm going to rattle off, I don't know if I'll get them all in the right order, but these airplanes have gone down with the same signature since I reported this to the federal government. On the 1st of January of 2007, Adam Air 574 went down in Indonesia. On the 5th of May of 07, Kenya Airways 507 went down between Cameroon and Nairobi, I believe. Speedbird, British airplane, it crashed. It made it to the runway, or close to the runway at Heathrow, with both engines out. Didn't kill anybody, but it's got the signature of a, well, I'll just put this one word out there and then I'll be quiet. FADEC, F-A-D-E-C. You can Google it. Okay, then Turkish 1951 crashed in Amsterdam, resulting in several fatalities. These are hard to keep track of. Yes, Air Africa 771 crashed in Tripoli, Libya, and that was in May of 2010, and everybody on the airplane died. All but one person died in the crash. A Dutch boy survived for a number of days, and then he perished also. And all these people are innocent. I'm not gonna labor on the next one, but it might be Sukhoi, the Sukhoi Superjet that went down, I think on the 12th of May of 2012. It went down in a very recognizable and established pattern. It was, the world thinks that it was flown by incompetent pilots. I've flown with Russian pilots in Kazakhstan. Their pilots are not incompetent. In many ways, they're more professional and more competent than I was. But that's my opinion, or my allegation. When the Sukhoi Superjet 100 flew into Mount Salat in Indonesia on the 12th of May of 2012, I recognized the pattern, so I immediately, in fact, I was going to put out the email address. I won't do that. I emailed the Russian air attaché in Washington, D.C.
No, we don't need that one.
No, I'm not going to give the email address, but I sent a message to the Russian air attaché because I have something similar to him. He flew for the Russian Air Force. I flew for the U.S. Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps. And I told him, I said, you know, the world is going to criticize Sukhoi and your pilots, and they've already started. But I said, it's my opinion that this was not due to error on their part or mechanical error. I said, I think it's due to the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot. 2 days later, 48 hours, GRU, which is related to KGB, they published around the world. America has the ability to remotely capture airliners, and America does. But so do some other countries, and I do not believe it was the United States of America that caused that. And I do believe I know who did it, and I've already published it, so I won't waste your viewers' time.
No, we've seen it on the videos.
Yeah.
Now, if anybody wants to see Abel Danger at work, you live stream. Is it on live stream website, or is it on your own website?
I'm going to do this slowly. I hope I get it right. www.livestream, livestreame/accounts, ACCOUNTS/1990801. And if you enter that, you will go to the archive of 405 shows we put out in the last 2 years. And they're all free, and they're all about an hour and a
I'll
half.
tell you what I can do. I can put the link on the notes, on the video, so that everybody's got it.
Good. And we're not trying to impress anybody, and we're not trying to present ourselves as anything other than what we truly are. David Hawkins and myself see great evil in the world. We understand it. We understand why the authorities can't stop it, and the reason why the authorities can't stop it is the authorities are part of it.
Karen Hoods,
Yes.
do you know her?
Yes, and I don't want to be rude, but because she's a lady and I'm a guy, her name is pronounced Hoodish.
Oh, sorry,
H-U-D-E-S.
I do apologise.
No, apologize to her. I don't care.
Okay, Karen, I apologise.
Yeah, I know her.
And is she involved with Abel Danger at all?
No, we interviewed her several times, and I've actually met her. My parents are buried at Arlington National Cemetery, and in January of 2014, I went out to lay a red, white, and blue wreath at my parents' grave because one of the 10 commandments is honor your father and mother. And so I honor my father and mother, and other people can make their own decision whether they want to do that or not. While I'm on the 10 commandments, commandment number 9 is don't bear false witness against your neighbor. It does not say don't bear false witness unless your neighbor is a Muslim, then it's okay. It doesn't say that. So
I didn't want to get into that.
No, not at all. But the reason I bring it up is because they've been patsied and vilified. A lot of the world was told that 23 young Muslim men did 9/11, and I'm looking right at the camera and saying that's 100% wrong.
Okay.
But back to Karen
Okay,
Hoodish.
well, the question I got to ask is, what do you think really happened?
On 9/11, I know what really happened. They had multiple exercises going on, and all 4 of the airliners, and I'll rattle them off so everybody can look them up. The correct order is American 11, United 175, American 77, and United 93. The first 3 hit their targets, and those targets were World Trade 1 and 2 and the Pentagon. But I'm going to do this sort of with my hands, because pilots talk with my hands, or their hands. But the 4 real airliners were joined while they were flying, and they were flying with humans in the cockpit and humans in the cabin. I'll do it with 2, because there were 4 airliners and 4 drones. But we'll just use 2, and I'm going to pick American 77 because my college classmate Chip Burlingame was the captain of Flight 77, and I have to respect. Well, I do respect him. He had graduated from the Naval Academy in 1971, as I did, and he went into the Navy and flew F-4 Phantoms, and I went into the Marine Corps and I flew KC-130s, A-4s, then later F-4s and F-16s. Who cares? Doesn't matter. They killed him. Murder. That was not a terrorist act, unless you want to say that elements of the shadow government of the United States of America committed a terrorist act, which they did. But the real simple explanation is using American 77. Initially, you just see one airplane take off from Dulles Airport and turn west through Pennsylvania and Ohio, heading for California. His birthday was September 12th of 2001. He was going to turn 52 years old. And his birthday present to himself was he had enough seniority where he could pick what flights he flew. So he picked a flight that was going to LA because he liked the Anaheim Angels baseball team, and they were playing on his birthday. He never got to the game because as his airplane took off and made the turn around to Pennsylvania, Ohio, it was commandeered electronically with a Boeing uninterruptible autopilot, and it reversed course, and this was seen. The air traffic control, they saw all these reversals, of course. His course was reversed, and he flew directly I'm going to correct myself. He was no longer flying. Yeah. Technology was now flying.
So the plane was actually a drone?
Well, yeah, it was a drone, but it was a drone with a human crew and human passengers. And this goes back to the ATI, where they introduced the gas to put people to sleep. They're not supposed to put them to sleep. They're supposed to calm them down. But I'm going to use, I'm going to pick whiskey. Everybody knows what that means. If a guy his size had 2 or 4 ounces of whiskey, it might calm him down or relax him. If a guy his size in 20 minutes drank 2 quarts of whiskey, he'd be dead. Same thing with a good system like ATI, which is supposed to calm us down. If you dial up the dosage, you can kill everybody. That goes back to Malaysia 370. I believe they were all dead. But let's.
Well, I've got no way of proving you wrong or right, but you've got so much information that if you are right, then we've got to know about it.
That's why I'm here, and that's why here in Telford, England, the next thing I do is during the lunch break, a guy named Mark Ceylon and I are going to be, and it's not about him and me. His issues are completely different than my issues. And whether the people playing these parts, and what I mean is, I'm doing what Abel Danger does. He's doing, what is the name of his network? Do you recall?
I don't know.
It's something about get out of debt in 30 days. But, you know, he's trying to protect consumers from illegal forfeitures of homes.
That's right.
And I'm trying to protect the traveling public of Rwanda, Kenya, North Korea, Canada, Australia. I don't like the fact that the US and the UK are the leaders in the remote capture of airliners, leading to the total destruction of all the innocent people aboard. And we've done 10 of those, and I didn't rattle them off, and I won't take the time now, but I started about 7 of them, and there's 10 in a row that have the same signature. And I've shared this information with the director of the Federal Aviation Administration, whose name is Michael Huerta, Huerta. I've shared this information with the president of the Airline Pilots Association, which is a union. His name was Captain Moak. And when I speak tomorrow, I'm going to be naming a whole lot more names, because these people are not upholding their oath. They've taken an oath not only to America, but to their offices to perform their duties in a way that enhances the safety of the traveling public. 10 airplanes in 8 years is not doing their job.
I know we haven't got a magic wand and we just can't put everything right in one go, but where do you see the end game? When do you see the turning point?
Without being overly dramatic or self-serving, I think we're living it right now here in Telford. I think the canoe, and what canoe? Who's in the canoe? There's a cabal running the world. Some people would call it Serco, and they're wrong. It's bigger than that. Some people would say it's the octopus, and they're wrong, because the octopus morphed into Serco. Some people would say it's the New World Order. They're wrong too, because in order to establish the New World Order, you got to take God out of the equation. They've taken him out of the equation very much in your country and mine, but see, they don't have the power to take God out of the equation totally. He's got the power to stay. He created it, it's his. I think we're at a tipping point right now. I mentioned earlier the fracture between the global bankers and the legal communities. These people are paranoid. Who are these people? They're perpetrators. Well, let me give you, you're David Cameron and our Barack Obama and my own sister, Christine Marcy. There are 3 very high-placed evil parties that came into their job with no experience. I'll pick on Cameron first. The only thing I'm aware that he's done is spent 90 days as a ship jumper at Jardine Matheson in Hong Kong. And as long as I'm being hard on him, I might say that his great-grandfather, whose last name was Geddes, and I think it was Alexander Geddes, Geddes, a Scotch name, he had the safe in Chicago that had the ignition instructions and the insurance policies involved in the Great Chicago Fire of 8 October 1871 to 11 October 1871.
And don't tell me he managed to save them.
Yeah, they got the papers out. The papers went to Scotland, and he himself was quoted as saying, if we couldn't have gotten that safe out of Chicago, our family fortune would be lost. Now, there's people who say, what does that have to do with 9/11? Everything. Because it's the same families doing the same evil in each generation. And it's gone on way too long. And can we stop it? No. Can God stop it? Yes.
Phil McConnell, this is Ian for the Cider Party channel, and I'd like to thank you very much for being over in England, and I hope you have a nice trip, and thank you for talking to us.
Oh, well, it's my obligation, it's my pleasure to tell the truth as I know it, and just so some people don't think that I'm arrogant or snobby, I don't want to be doing this, and if I misspeak, My email address is fieldmcc@yahoo.com, and my phone number is international code 001-715-307-8222. I'm a very public person. I'm very transparent. I think I'm very, well, I know I'm very honest, and I think I'm fairly well informed. And if anybody wants to engage me, have at it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you.
Ugh.